Hey guys, I teach at a school for dyslexic and other out-of-the-box thinkers, and I am constantly impressed and thrilled with my students, what they're doing. And I love I'm a science teacher, and I love the scientific adventure that they are on. So I wanted to show you tonight some stuff that they've been working. So we've been talking about the body, and the most recent project we did with my middle school kids is to create a joint. So this was, I'll share with you in the link where I originally found this activity, but I'll walk you through it myself. So you basically start with 4 toilet paper tubes. And the first thing you do is you cut 1 toilet paper tube in half. So you have essentially kind of a half tube, and it creates a bit of a cradle. Once you have that cradle, you take a second toilet paper tube and cut on the outside to make it kind of flowered, and you tape that onto the first tube. So you have this, basically, it's 1 tube with a cradle on top. That's your first part. The second part, you take this toilet paper tube and you make a lot of cuts around the end. So you have a narrow end on this, and you take a second tube and make a hole in it and sort of fold it in. And then you put this in here, and you've created a second T. So at this point, you have 2 pieces. This is where the joint sits, right? So this is the part that cups the joint, and this is a bit like the part that fits in. So it's sort of a hybrid. It's not exactly, it's supposed to be a model of the knee joint. It's not exactly a knee joint, which is there's almost no cup for there. It's not quite a ball joint because this is only one directional, but it's a pretty good model in between. So this is where the bottom part of your leg would be sitting, be holding the top joint, which fits in, right? So at that point, you have 2 pieces which can move independently. Now, one of the things I really loved, you'll see in this original, my first piece, this is not lined, but I actually had a student who brilliantly said, you know what? The knee has a natural lining in it. What if you took some tape? It's a lot slicker. It has less friction in there, and you could put that in like a layer. So that was absolutely brilliant. I love that student. He's so excellent at building and putting things together and modeling things, and he really sees in 3 dimensions how things work. And a lot of my students are very much like that. So once you've got this joint put together, the next part is that you want to stabilize the joint. So at that point, you need, whoops, I've lost my elastics. There's my elastic. You need some elastics, and you're going to put them together. And these are a bit like ligaments, holding the joint together. They go on both sides, and that holds your joint together. And the last step, so you'll see that whoops. So now that's what happens when you have a broken ligament. Your knee doesn't quite work right because one half is held in place and the rest of it's kind of flopping around. That's why your ligaments are really important. So that's one of the things my students were able to see from this activity, exactly how all those pieces fit together. And the final piece is you attach some strings on both sides, and those strings go down. They come through a hole here. I tied them in place. You can tape them in place. You can put a big fat knot on the inside. Any of those will work. And then this goes down and through another hole here. So once this is in place and you have your muscles put in, now you can never push with a muscle. So no matter how much I push up on this string, I'm never going to make that joint work. But you have 2 opposing muscles on either side of a joint. That's what makes it work. So you need both muscles to make this go in both directions. Fabulous. So you pull that on through. It's just a little bit of it's harder than it looks. It's a very small hole. All right, so once you pull it through, your joint is ready to go. So I actually made a second joint that had bright blue, so you could see the muscles better, and it goes through, goes from here, this joint or this bone, the upper bone where it hooks into the bone and attaches so it can pull, and down here where it hooks into the bone. There's another one on both sides, And in this particular joint, all my ligaments are working just right. So they're all there, no broken elastics. Now what happens is as you pull on the opposing muscles, right, you can't push. You can't push with your muscles. You only tighten the muscles. And then when they release, they're no longer pulling the joint. So as you pull, this joint will rotate in both different directions. And so it's rotating within this nicely held container. And this joint, you can see, I've actually updated this joint. So in this joint, my joint is lubricated. So I added the tape in this joint. You can see it. So this is where we're going both ways, right? If I pull this way, I rotate in one direction. If I pull the other muscle, I rotate in the other direction. And that is how your joint works. So here we have the muscles, the bones, and the ligaments all in the joint. And I really want to share with you what all of my students were doing, because they had some absolutely beautiful joints that they created, and every one was its own beautiful different joint. So this was one. It was actually made as she was traveling in a car. This joint was put together, and I love this. She's got the ligaments. She's got these bright muscles that you can see really easily. Here's one. I think this is phenomenal. That tape just makes it for me. And we've got the ligaments here. We've got the muscles pulling, and you can see this is some nice rotation, making that go around. Here's two more that were put together. And actually one of these students said, yeah, I don't think I did a very good idea, but this looks phenomenal to me. I think she did great. So I don't think that she had some trouble. She was having some trouble putting it together and getting it all to work right. And honestly, a bunch of toilet paper tubes, they're kind of floppy. So it was not an easy task to get these put together, but every single one of my kids just absolutely nailed it. And here's the one that this was my student that put this together. And you can see in there, there's the tape that's inside the joint, causing some lubrication and making that work. And this is another one. So this student actually created a toilet paper tube joint for a previous project. He wanted to create a ball and socket joint. And so he actually did this with a plastic ball that he modeled as the socket part of the joint. And this was another ball, and covered it all with clay to make this look like bones. And here was another whole approach to the joint. So no matter what I do with these beautiful students of mine, I am always impressed, and it is always phenomenal. And I never know exactly what I'm going to see. But every time I do a science project with these guys, I'm blown away all over again. So that's the end of my bragging, but I'm really glad that I was able to share this with you guys. Bye-bye.